Hello, it's Jen again. Hope you all had a good week. This past week was pretty good for me as far as my game development goals. I did pretty much meet all of my plans to be able to finish and release Chapter 5 of Allele for the 23rd. Right now, all the routes are written. I just have to go back into Anthony's route and add some voice cues and finish up some of the sprites. So I thought it might be kind of interesting to talk this week about, I had mentioned in one of my previous videos that my primary goal with creating these projects is enrichment. It provides just a good motivation for getting up in the morning, and it just gives me a lot of joy to be able to express myself in this way. And some of it is still development because I feel like there's still a lot of things that I can keep learning about game development, storytelling, and art. But I would be lying if I didn't say that I don't hope to make my things more marketable someday in the future. I think that it will always be something that's very niche because I have to have a project feel very close to my heart in order for me to feel really motivated to be working on it, for it to really feel fulfilling to me. But I was kind of curious with Allele whether or not I would be able to make some of my projects more accessible, and if that accessibility would give it a little bit more visibility. Now, I don't ever really have aspirations to become viral or have any type of success that would be considered, I don't know, newsworthy anywhere on any scale. But I would like to continue to connect my stories with people who it resonates with, and in order to do that, it is going to have some way of making them visible to that potential audience. So what are the things that I can do without compromising my artistic vision or my enrichment that I get from working on my projects, while being able to, I guess, kind of boost some of that visibility and to make my stuff a little bit more marketable? I guess that's where kind of Allele came in, because I wanted to make the project more accessible by first having it be a browser first kind of game, because I do think that with a lot of, at least if I were to think of my audience as being somebody similar to myself, even if I have the technology to download, install, and run a game, it doesn't mean that I necessarily have the time, energy, or it's not my preferred platform, because when I want to relax, I want to really relax. I want to lay down, I want to stretch out, I want to be completely comfy, and I want to have the convenience of my phone. So that was my primary goal with Allele, and I wanted to see if maybe I would be able to find, I guess, more like-minded people that maybe my other games that required an installation, full operating system may have been excluding unwittingly to myself. And actually, it was a lot easier to port it out to web and to Android than I thought it would be once I just did it for the first time, right? Now, did this actually end up creating more accessibility or visibility to Allele as opposed to other projects? It's hard to say, because when we look at tagging, it seems that the Yandere tag is a popular one. It seems to be a reliable one as far as having more steady traffic. So in the 5 years that I've been making games, most of my games, I would say, follow a very predictable pattern of what I would call a 3-day, 4-day hump, where upon initial release or initial update, there's an uptick in traffic that steadily goes up for the first day, reaches the peak on the second day, and then steadily declines on the third day, and by the fourth day is probably at a baseline of what the traffic will be like until the next update. And that baseline is a trickle, it's a trickle. But that was what was to be expected, and, that was fine. And I'm very happy with the engagement that I got with my other projects. But I would say that, Allele is definitely it's definitely like making laps around my other projects as far as like visibility goes. So I'm not sure if that is a combination of like the tags being more appealing in general to the itch.io audience, to the visual novel crowd, having maybe a little bit more of a traditional visual novel gameplay, if you want to call it that, or just formula setup, meets more within genre expectations. I don't know how popular hybrid games really are. They might still be in like an awkward phase, or maybe my hybrid games might be more in an awkward phase. Could be a combination of that. I do think that when you're in a platform like itch.io where there is just so much readily content, like just flooding that area, that there is a certain expectation, I think, that needs to get met in order for people to take the time to give attention to your project when they have so many choices. I think most people are looking to have something meet a certain expectation of their particular interest or niche. So I think Yandere was a tag that did that for Allele. I think that the visual novel presentation was a little bit more understandable, or perhaps a little bit less convoluted or confusing that EXG was. And I think the accessibility of having it browser-based was just a much lower bar of entry that I would definitely highly recommend to other creators who are looking to boost their visibility of their projects. Now, in hindsight, I think it was a little bit silly of me not to have some type of a web build, whether it be like a demo available on itch.io, just so that you can have that initial trust with your audience who maybe is scared to download games onto their computer with every reasonable, apprehension, given what they could potentially be exposing their computer to. I don't really know. I haven't had an issue with it personally, but I have heard stories. So that I would say for suggestions for boosting visibility, with it might not necessarily be like your project thumbnail, your social media presence, your lack of advertising. It could be something as simple as finding the right tag for your project, and for just making it more accessible, having a browser-based version of your project, whether that just be like a demo or a modified version if for whatever reason the full version cannot be played on the browser. I think those two things are relatively simple things to do that could help your audience find you, or help the people who might resonate with your project to find you. I was completely kind of shocked, honestly, to finally, break the 5-year pattern of just having that 3-4 day hump with Allele, when I didn't feel like I made any groundbreaking development inroads as far as my skill as a programmer, and I didn't feel like I made any huge inroads with my style of art, my thumbnails, the website presentation, and I didn't really do any social media promotion. My social media channels are very small and they don't really generate any traffic. I make this YouTube channel just to serve as an encouragement to other people who might be in my similar shoes, because I don't see a lot of middle-aged mothers, full-time working moms doing this. And I used to think that I was a bit of a renegade or something, that I didn't need to follow the rest of the pack. But I do think that I would have gotten started on this type of stuff if I had seen more of an example of people like myself doing this kind of stuff. I'll be honest, I'm just a human being at heart. So I'm not quite the rebel without a cause that more edgelordy me as a teenager thought I was. I was pretty conforming. I don't want to get into the numbers, because I don't think game development is something that you can measure your progress in by your stats by your analytics alone. But I will say that all of this has been a very educational experience for me. And I would just encourage you, if you are also publishing on itch.io, to try playing around with those two things, accessibility and tagging. And perhaps, also your capsule art, if you think that your thumbnail could be improved. Make sure that it's clean, has good contrast, you can see what's going on there, and good luck to you all. Hope you all have a great holiday. Don't forget to enjoy the process. What matters most is your own personal growth and enrichment, because hey, it's your life. I feel like I've got one shot to be the best version of myself, and I hope that every day that passes by, every year that passes by, every decade that I have the fortunate privilege of being alive, I'd like to keep striving to be even better. Okay, take care. Happy holidays. Bye-bye.